Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody to the May 7th City Council Workshop. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Okay, so we are going to hear Planning Commission recommendations regarding the annexation of tax map number 645-00-00-027, 2320 Vineyard Road, and rezoning from RSF 40 in York County to R40 in the city. Mr. Blesky, would you please?
Good evening. We had a meeting on Monday, May 5th, and the TAK Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve the rezoning of tax map 645-00-00027 from RSF 40 in York County to R40 residential, which is residential for 40,000 square foot lots in the city of TAK as part of 100% annexation. And the vote was unanimous. Is that good? Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Blesky. Okay.
One of the questions was, will TKK have to flip the bill in order to connect to our water and sewer and that kind of stuff? And the answer is no. The resident will have to pay for that in order to do that kind of stuff. So there's no cost to the council or to the city in order to do that.
Sounds like a great deal. All right.
Fantastic.
Okay. On to the discussion of Windhaven Park.
So, Mr. Mayor and Council, Dustin is going to kind of orient you with the map you see on the screens in front of you, and talk about the elements in there, why those particular elements, and then we'll be looking for feedback from council. So, Dustin?
It's interesting to sit from over here. I can't really see anyone, so I think I need a booster seat. But
You can come
council,
over here in the front.
so you can
Who is
hear
the
me.
man behind the wall?
Yeah, you can hear me. You just can't see me. So, council, I want to thank you for taking this time to look at Windhaven Park. I know this is a pretty exciting time to actually get to look and see and potentially develop a new park for our awesome city. So before I get started, I do want to mention Matt Mandel is sitting in the front row. He's from ESP, the engineering company that helped put this concept plan together. So he's here to help answer some questions if needed, and obviously I can answer some as well. But just want to kind of go through this concept, and again, this is a concept plan, so this is what our ideas were as we started with this project, a blank slate. So to begin with, a lot of the elements are primarily what you see are derived from the initial master plan survey that we did. So as we went through the survey, that was something that was asked of all TKK residents, and what do you want to see built if possible? Well, with this 20-acre parcel here, there is a possibility to make those come to life. So I'll just kind of go through each element as we go through, and kind of mention why it's there and all that, kind of give you a good picture as to why we were looking to do these things. So obviously you can start on the far right side. We do have that parking. It is 101 spaces. The parking is there primarily for just the usage of this facility. So there is multiple elements that require parking that I'll get into. That's your very basic in order to ensure we have enough parking for any visitors within TKK that use this facility. As you open, you see there, or as you can notice, there are large areas of open space, and right in the middle you'll see open fields and cricket area. I think it would be very exciting and unique to TKK to be able to offer those type of facilities for everyone in TKK. We look at that as also a supplemental field for our recreation programs. So whether that's soccer, flag football, or just an area to gather, that is something that we could potentially utilize as part of our recreation program as we continue to grow. So that is, we wanted to keep it as open as we possibly can and to have multi-uses, especially for that field. You can see that, again, there's a picnic shelter, girls' restrooms. Again, restrooms are going to be essential, especially if this is going to be used for any type of programming or any multi-use capabilities for the facility. The outdoor equipment, the hammock stands, those were mentioned in the master plan survey, especially the outdoor fitness equipment. I believe it was number 2 on the list of what would be used if offered. Which leads me as we go down a little bit further into the park, and I think that there will be several people in the city that's watching, they see dog park. I think you would be surprised at the number of emails, phone calls, and just general inquiries about where can I take my dog to run around? We don't have a dog park, and it was by far the number 1 most listed or requested item on the master plan survey was a dog park for TKK. We picked that location because, as you can see, it is wooded, so it would be shielded from any of the surrounding areas, giving it a little bit of a buffer in terms of any noise or things of that sort. And then the major piece of it as well that was mentioned in the master plan and the survey and potentially usage for Windhaven development as well as those trails. Connectivity and trails is one of the most requested and asked for items as part of the master plan survey. That gives you a nice loop to be able to access throughout the entire park. You can see that there's also the trail in the far left corner is going to be less concrete and more of your nature access as part of that trail system. So wrapping it all together, I think it encompasses everything that was requested in the master plan survey, or excuse me, as requested as one of the most highly requested things in the master plan survey. So we wanted to take this opportunity with a blank slate and really give the community what they've been asking in a place that we're able to do that. So
Other than, before we start really diving into any elements, or can we see this instead of that type of thing, one of the things that we really need to understand from council is your vision. Whether you envision this 20-acre parcel, just to give you a frame of reference, Turner, including the wooded area going down the hill behind the restroom building and everything else, and including the parking lot, is approximately 10 acres. So this is twice the size of the entire Turner complex. Does council envision this just as a neighborhood park, only for, or primarily for pedestrian access, and really kind of primarily focused on residents of Windhaven using, or do you see it as the community park as we've envisioned it and got on this site plan, or this concept plan for you before you tonight? I mean, I think that's really kind of the crux. And if it's community, then we can start talking about this up at the dais. We gave you a kind of a pricing sheet, if you will. This, do keep in mind, this is very, very high level, very rudimentary, okay? There's a lot of value engineering that Dustin's already seen in there. For instance, the restrooms, we don't need that many toilets at this facility, but so there's more work that we can do in diving into these numbers and working through a phasing plan, if you will. But we didn't want to put a phasing plan together if it's council's desire to just have a community, or excuse me, a neighborhood park versus community park out of this massive space.
I think, just me being me, I think that you could do a starter park, and we can always add to it. Once we get the grading and everything done for it, then it's not really hard to add to it. I mean, at this point, I envision it more as a community park myself. I've spoken with citizens several times on the park and what they would envision. And really all they're asking for is cricket fields. That's really all they're asking for, is just a few cricket fields, and, it's not that expensive to put them in. I mean, I don't know what's involved with a cricket field. I'm a baseball guy and a basketball guy, but from the folks that I've spoken with, that's kind of what I'd see. Now, I think a bathroom's not a bad idea to have down there. I would say dropping a modular, maybe 2-stall bathroom down there would, it'd be easy maintenance. And then you're talking just to lay a slab and you lay it on it and it's done. So you're not talking about too much time there. That's what I see. I don't know about you guys. I mean,
I would agree with the mayor that I would view it as more of a community park rather than a neighborhood park. And if I were going to try and put a vision on paper as to what this area should look like, I don't know that I could have done a better job of what you guys have done here. I think that, to me, it spells out a lot of community access with a lot of universal flair to it, with multi-use. I'll say my piece on a dog park. Man, I'm a dog lover and I have been forever. I can't ever imagine turning my dog loose inside a fence with a bunch of strange dogs. That just doesn't make any sense in my head that I would do that with my dogs and expose them to that. But the people have spoken, and this is what our community wants, and I'm going to support them if that's what they want. I'll ride by and see how many veterinarians are treating animals there, but my dogs won't be in it. But I hope people really enjoy it. I hope the dogs get along famously, and I hope it turns out to be a great space for people to enjoy it. I really like what you've done here. I like the trails. I have a couple questions, and I'll get into them whenever that's appropriate, but I just wanted to say, yeah, I think it looks like a nice use of community area.
I think from my perspective, this was started as a community park. It was discussed with the people that were moving into that neighborhood as this is a park that is going to be your community park. So I don't think that I don't see that changing in how we build it out. What's here right now, is that the vision of a community park, or is that a vision of a bigger footprint?
This would be the community park.
Okay.
Right. So if council were leaning more towards neighborhood park, you're not having the parking lot, probably not even putting bathrooms out there.
When we say community park, we're talking about for the whole city, for all the
Correct.
residents, right?
Yep.
Not just
It
Windhaven.
would be for people to drive in and use that
Thank
facility.
you, okay.
Right?
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yes. So that's what we had envisioned, but we wanted to make sure that our vision was going to line up with council's vision.
And when you talk about programming, what would that be? Because
Yeah, so with the open field, it would be a multi-purpose field. So whether that's your U4 soccers, your U7 soccer, U6 flag football practices. So with the area too, and I forgot to mention this, is this was the old middle school site for the stadium. So it does not have suitable soil to build any type of large structures like lights and courts, things of that sort. So it won't be lighted, but it can be used for your potential Saturday U4 soccers or Tuesday 5:30 8U flag football practices. So we envision it as, whenever it's not being used, it's open to the community. But if we need any type of overflow practice sites, we can use that as well.
How many problems have we had this year with, as far as programming with the space that we have now?
Problems, minimal, because we have fantastic programmers.
You mean like
I'll throw that out
overcapacity?
there, but.
Like, have we
So-
double booked a couple teams?
So no double books, but as we all know, we continue to grow as a city with some of the new neighborhoods that's coming on. So I know at least soccer and those younger age groups would love to expand to those younger groups. Right now, we have a Saturday and a Wednesday. They've already asked about trying to expand to multiple days for those younger kids to give parents more opportunities. So it's not necessarily that we have a problem at the moment, but we also want to look forward to be able to, handle any type of growth or access that we have later on. There's other opportunities for the site too that's not in the concept plan. But these is what we thought were the primary needs and potential close future needs.
And this wouldn't be necessarily a primary spot for our programming. This would help supplement as needed, with the idea of keeping it as open to the community as possible and not maximizing the space with our programs so that it stayed as that passive space. Now, I've been told that cricket matches can go on for days. So they may try to maximize that spot some, but yeah, we see them a good bit out on TKK Elementary Field. Yeah, driving past, I've seen some cricket matches out there. I've been told, have not seen it, that before we started the court conversions and everything, they've been playing cricket down on the tennis
And the
courts.
Wordle, yeah,
which
on the tennis courts.
I'm not even sure how that works in that small of a space, but yeah,
It's fascinating to watch.
with a lot of our newer community members, it has definitely been a sport on the rise, if you will. I'm not aware of any cricket-specific pitches anywhere in York County, so this would be a first. But apparently, you can play cricket anywhere. You just need a little bit of room. So,
Right.
but yeah, we wouldn't be looking to maximize this space. But I think Dustin hit the nail on the head. This isn't a needed space for our programs right now, but trying to look out into the future as, okay, yeah, whether it's rainouts
good
or whether it's
overflow,
just
right?
because of participation, things like that, we got a little extra wiggle room. if you
And
will.
that's in that back section that you're looking
It'd be up
for
in that
that?
front section.
Oh, in the,
That first multi-purpose field by the parking lot, right?
where the cricket fields are slotted
Correct.
now,
Yes,
that's where
ma'am.
you would look to
Yeah.
do your
'Cause
programming?
the
at
cricket
some-
field doesn't have any physical structures that stay permanent. Think of it kind of like you're setting up croquet in the backyard, and you go and put the knock the poles into the ground and do your thing. Yeah, that's what they're doing out at the elementary school field.
What's in the back end where it says open field?
That's just an open field that we didn't program that area. We tried to maximize the space that we had, so we don't have any concept plans for it at the moment.
So it's, if there was such a need to add on to the programming, then that could potentially be used versus using the front fields?
Absolutely, and there's opportunities to expand. I mean, the dog park, you could put additional fitness equipment, so it is very open to multiple uses. So we didn't specifically put anything there, but yes, to your point, it could be used as overflow programming as well.
Is there any topography challenges in that section there that's not utilized right now that would prevent us from using it like a field?
That's on a hill.
It is on a
You
hill.
talking about that one channel right there? that's
Kind of
running-
the the
north to
left,
south?
left and top left areas?
If it's okay with council.
Sure.
We'll let Matt answer that one.
Thank you.
Good evening, Matt Mandel with ESP Associates. Appreciate you having me here this
Welcome.
evening. Excited to be part of this opportunity for the city and helping out Dustin and Charlie. Generally, the area within the concept that we've kind of utilized within the walkway and then those open fields is kind of what we would consider the more usable space, if you will. If you kind of get to the side where the darker green is, where the tree canopy shown, there's some pretty challenging topo as the site moves to the sides and back. So.
Okay.
Would there be any thought of, I see the fitness equipment, but if we can have fitness equipment, could we also not have a playground? Because there is not a playground for that neighborhood, or is there?
There is.
No, they have one at their
They do
amenity
have
center.
one?
There's a playground at their amenity center where they have a
Okay.
pool.
Okay. What's your guess on the length of the trail end to end, as far as distance? Do we know? Quarter mile, half mile?
I've got some numbers I can pull. Give me one second.
Just curious. The reason I ask is I was wondering if it's overutilized. Our people love to walk trails, so if it's overutilized and over capacity, could that other area that maybe can't be used as a field, could the trail be expanded through there?
It's 3,290 feet according to the call
Oh,
sheet.
so that's like 6/7 of a mile, so
Right.
it's not bad.
Yeah, definitely over half a mile.
Yeah,
And they got sidewalks all through Windhaven,
right.
just saying. Dry run. Yeah, you can go
Yeah, it
all the
is.
way up to the North Carolina line and back down on sidewalks.
Is there
So-
any space that you guys on staff would have thought you'd like to see here that maybe you kicked out for this concept?
One idea that has been, I guess, recommended or tossed around is our disc golf course that runs it from Lookout Park up to the hill is a 9-hole. We've received several, I guess, excited people that have said we would love to see it expanded. So that was an item that, when you look at the park itself around the property line, there's an opportunity to put an 18 disc catcher disc golf course there. Again, that's just another thing that we could potentially do to use the topography and the tree cover, throwing through the trees, things of that sort. So there's several ideas that we can come up with, but that's just one off the top of my head that we didn't include that was discussed.
Dustin, you think we could utilize our scouts to install a disc golf course like that? There's a 9-hole disc golf course behind Carolina Cornerstone that was an Eagle Scout project.
That's what I was going to say, yeah, Eagle
I
Scout
think that's
project.
entirely possible. We have a member on staff who's very involved with disc golf. He goes up to West Virginia every year to participate and work their event. He loves disc golf. He'll talk your ear off if you want to learn anything you can about it. And when I was explaining him about this project, he was like, I would love to get involved, would love to help. So I
Great.
think that it's definitely a possibility for scouts to help with that.
So I like the plan you came up with, but I don't like the sticker price on this sheet in front of me. I know, Charlie, we had that meeting with the parks person, and we got 400,000 from the developer, and we could potentially get a $400,000 match if we apply for that grant and wait for it to come through. Are we putting the cart before the horse here if we're gonna go for that grant?
So our thoughts, I'll start with, kind of tonight. So it sounds like we're getting some consensus from council, and I know we haven't heard from everybody yet, but community park. Okay, so now that allows us to start identifying funding over and above the 400,000, i.e. the LWCF grant that you just mentioned, the RTP, which is the Recreation Trails. It's another grant source that could possibly cover the trails, the trail portion of this, future PARD grants. Things like that, so where we can start identifying other funding sources, and then develop that phasing plan. So
Yeah.
if we get let's say we apply for
400.
in August, we apply for the LWCF grant, and first part of next year we find out, oh, you've been awarded. Okay, so now we've got 800,000. Okay, so now we're looking to Matt. Okay, help us build that phasing plan.
Right, and I think
With that first phase starting at that $800,000.
I think the phasing plan too has to be part of it when we apply for the grant, if I
Right.
remember the meeting right? So we'd have to identify, let's just say this was a plan, everyone said, this is great, let's go with it, but we'll make, the pitch and whatever's on the front would be the first phase.
Right.
And then phase 2 would be in the back or
Yeah.
something, and then obviously the bathroom is a huge cost. It's
At
the
that
biggest-
size. it
Biggest
is.
one on here, isn't it?
We,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
would we would look to scale that down, for sure.
360,000, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying we don't need bathrooms. I'm just, again, maybe they come later. Or
We
maybe
don't need the
smaller.
Taj Mahal of
Yeah,
bathrooms.
exactly. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, no, thank you. That
Yep.
was-
Yeah,
And
that's
as part of that, as we start working through a phasing plan and whatnot, because again, we didn't want to go too far with anything until we've got y'all's input as far as what we've put together thus far. But obviously, your most expensive things is going to be your initial site work and installing your infrastructure, right? We
Charlie, I
want to
did-
try to get at least out of the ground, if you will, to where, okay, now there's at least something usable. The parking lot, it may start off as just a gravel lot. I mean, Turner, the parking lot at Turner was gravel for a number of years before any asphalt got put on it, right? And we were actively programming on that for half a decade.
And-
So, I mean, there's definitely ways where we can do some value engineering as part of that phasing plan.
Right.
To where now, okay, phase 1 is going to cost you X. Phase 2 is going to cost you Y. Maybe there's a third phase.
Yeah, my
depending
personal
on how we have
opinion
to break
is-
it down.
I would feel much more comfortable if phase 1, the first phase, the city is not coming out more than $400,000 that we have, that was set aside.
Completely
I
understand.
absolutely agree with that.
And that's kind of been our mindset as well.
Yeah, the concept that's been presented is
Can we make it a copy?
wonderful. Like it's great. It checks a lot of boxes that people want to see and people want to have in the community. Like Tom said, the sticker shock for the for the amount was, whoa, I thought we only had 400,000 to work with. But so with that being said, if it starts off something slow and goes into phase in, so it starts off as like a neighborhood park, and then eventually with the with a goal of focusing on building out the backside, that would be fabulous. And if we can get some funding, additional funding, like you're talking about, some grants, in order for us, the city, not to front the majority of that bill, would be perfect.
I like that plan.
Yeah, and I, just for, I know it was just Carmen and I were there, but for your guys' benefit, the way those grants work is they're 2-year grants, and so as long as we have it allocated and spent, so if we did phase 1 and had it done in 2 years, we can apply for another grant. Say, city goes in 100 grand, ask for another 100 grand to do the parking lot, and then 2 years later, you do it again, and so.
So is there a max on the grant? Like, does it have to match
Up to $1 million.
up to $1 million?
And we gotta
Okay,
match 50/50.
okay, 50/50.
So
And
we were
we have to
thinking,
spend 100%, then they reimburse that 50%.
yeah, so you gotta come out of
back to us.
pocket, yeah. But anyways.
So ideally, they approve us, we know we've got $400,000 sitting in reserves that's allocated to this. So we would apply for that additional 400,000 in that grant. We would have to spend 800,000 and then they would reimburse us the 400,000.
Well, isn't there a lot of gravel laying on that lot already? I mean, there's 4 or 5 piles of it.
In bits and pieces there are, yeah, it's not spread throughout. I
No,
mean,
I mean,
and
there's
the
a couple of piles.
vegetation,
Yeah.
the vegetation, you've got some trees and things like that that are it's all volunteer. They haven't been there for lengths of time, but it's, I mean, there's a lot of pockets of areas that are just, that's, through the grading process, all that goes away.
One
have
thing
a-
I didn't see on this, though, is an irrigation system. So with an open field space and no irrigation system in a hot July,
No, we will be irrigating it. Yeah, as we go further into getting into construction drawings and things like that, all that kind of stuff will be captured. So that way, we know, okay, in total, this is what this thing's gonna, what it's gonna cost. And here's what each phase is gonna look like.
so is that where the 1,400 comes in on the 2-inch domestic water line? You got 1,400 foot? Is that where that comes in?
That's to make the tie-in to our potable water system and get it out
Okay.
to where it needs to be.
Okay.
I have a
can't
couple of
s-
questions real quick. Sorry, Carmen. I know this is just a proposal, this isn't, nothing set in stone, but on the northeast side by the parking lot and then I can't read what that says, it's the property line, I think it says, where the neighborhoods and the buildings are, or the properties are, is there gonna be a buffer zone where there's some like trees and vegetation, so there's, or is everything gonna be torn down so the property owner sees everything at the park and the parking lot?
Right now, they're pretty much looking at that junk field that's out
Okay, so-
behind them.
so it's already down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so as we would go through, what they would be seeing at completion is a lot better than what they're having to look at right now.
Okay, and then the second part, I see there's a nice little trail at the west side of that. Would that potentially tie into River Falls to make sure that there's a contiguous trail between the communities?
River Falls is actually towards the south and west,
Okay,
the way River Falls runs. And no, because you've got a pretty substantial creek crossing and you've got
topo.
significant topo sloping down away from the park on that end, so.
okay.
I can't see all these little numbers.
Okay.
Is there a total for the parking lot in here?
Let's see. Give me
I've
one
tried.
second. Parking lot is 50,080 square feet at $4 a square foot, so $200,320.
So that would
Is
be,
your
if we
total.
decided to do gravel, that would be substantially less?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Obviously.
I mean, yeah, when you start with gravel, you would start with the compacted stone depth of what you would eventually want to put your asphalt on top of. So that way you're doing minimal, I would say, grading at the time that we're prepared to put asphalt on it.
You could put some crush and run on top of it.
That's what that's the gravel I'm talking about is doing crush and run.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to do full depth crush and run, but you could, I mean, you could. And that would be, with all the cars coming in and out and
It
a
will
little
be
bit of
compact.
weather, it'll pack down.
Yes, it will.
The crush and run, it's got a large ag and then it's got screenings in it. and those screenings, when they get wet, they tend to act like concrete when you start packing them down, so you can take a Vibra-Tamp and vibrate it, and it gets pretty hard and nice and smooth, so it's not that bad of a thing.
Great.
I don't think so.
I'd just want to see I guess in more detail, what the proportions of these things that we're talking about, like how big is the fitness area, how big is the actual, because I'll have
like
to
an
look up to see what a
acreage
cricket field
standpoint?
looks like, and, is it just
So
going to
like,
be one?
Are you talking about like how many acres or how many square feet is that first multi-purpose area?
Well, that,
Or-
and then, and it's probably in this, but I can't see it. Like, how big is that covered area? Is it a 10 by 12, or is it a 20 by 20? How big is the equipment area going to be? Is it a couple of places where you pull up on a handlebar, or is it?
That's your man right there.
So, just generally speaking, if you're looking at the two buildings over by the parking lot, the larger one is about a 50 by 60 foot building. Again, this is all conceptual, so that can be scaled up or down based on the program and budget. The smaller building is about a 30 by 30 building. The open area with the cricket field and kind of the multi-purpose field, within that walkway, that area is about 500 by 230, so it's about 2.5 acres, a little over 2.5 acres in size. And then the area on the backside with the dog park and the other open field is 350 by 200, so it's about a little over 1.5 acres.
Would you say that's like the size of Turner,
Go ahead,
Grundy?
Dustin.
I was going to say, for comparison, the event lawn at Catawba Park is about 3 acres.
So,
It's a very large
go
area.
ahead, Carmen, go ahead.
For the dog park, I know when we had that meeting regarding the matching funds, they said that the dog park actually had to have equipment in it. Is this just a fenced-in area with nothing in it?
Whether or not the dog park is an element funded under the LWCF grant, my guess would be no, but fencing's not that expensive either, right? So I would hate to spend money on elements just so that it qualified for a grant. If we can spend less money, fence it in,
Oh, no,
make it nice, that kind of thing. So
I get it.
but yeah.
I'm like Tom, I'm looking at the bottom line of that total, and it just, to spend that much money, I'd want to be able to see and have a wow factor, and that's why I'm asking the questions about the specifics that I would be included in that.
Well, Scott, you remember when the dog park was down at the bottom of Lookout?
Oh, I
Park?
remember when
And-
that
and
dog
Carmen, you
park was
remember
there,
that? and
yes.
I really remember that. It was terrible. It was absolutely awful. Oh, I hated it. I was one of the first ones to help pull out the posts, because you could smell it sitting on my back deck, and I really didn't care for that. But, so, and that's one thing that I'm looking at with dog parks. What kind of liability does that open up the city to? When another dog decides to bite somebody, and
None, with it being, if it's a free to use, it's a use at your own risk. I mean, we would still have our property liability insurance. It would be listed like we do any of our other assets, just like the other elements. But as far as increased risk, none.
okay. I don't know, with things that I've seen, I would say that we're gonna spend some money on some lawyer fees, with a dog park. I don't beg to differ with you, but I really do think that we would end up incurring lawyer fees with a dog park.
Well, for whatever it's worth, we don't have a lifeguard at the pool.
This is true.
You know what I mean?
This is true.
So,
It's already there, and it's been there for a long time.
That's at your own risk too.
You know. Oh, yeah, it is. And there's signs all around that says that.
Right. I'm not opposed to that. I just, and I don't want anybody to hear what I didn't say. I'm not opposed to it. It's not my deal, but man, there's a lot of people that for a lot of years have asked for that, and I respect that. I'm good with that being part of the plan. That's some big area in there, though. You know, when you look at that multi-purpose field for cricket, you probably get 4 cricket games going on that field at one time. I mean, it's probably like the size of 3 regulation soccer fields put together.
I mean, at 20 acres, it would be the second largest park, city park, behind Catawba Park.
So you
At
think
20 acres.
it would be impossible to put lighting there?
I'm not going to say impossible, but I would definitely have concerns. Is
that 'cause of landfill?
It probably wouldn't be immediate, but depending on the location of lights and things of that nature, one, it comes at a much larger cost, obviously, but with just the,
Is it soil
with
stabilization?
with
Is that
the, with the
issue?
soils underneath, I mean, when I came here in 2001, the city was in the midst of a lawsuit of the company that installed the lighting at Turner. Because they didn't tamp their lines properly and things like that, and we were all of a sudden having a lot of settling, and that was a former landfill site before it became Turner Field, right? I would have those same concerns here, and it's probably something that may not even rear its ugly head for another 10 years after we finish. But yeah, I would hate to go through the investment of installing lights, installing larger infrastructure type things above the surface, and then 10 years, we're battling massive settling problems. I mean, we're still to this day, I mean, Turner Field is now 25 years old, and we still battle settling and sinkholes at that facility. Yeah. I mean, they still pop from time to time, and we've got to address it and deal with it, and it's the gift that keeps on giving, for
Don't
sure.
they use them more temporary, but lights on a mobile thing?
Yeah. Yeah, you
Well,
gotta,
and you don't do a generator,
For the mobile
well,
lights.
it's a mobile trailer that has lights on it.
Yeah, but if
So
they
you
were
could do it
electric,
that-
you could run
if-
electric
if-
lines.
If need be, we could do that.
Right there.
Kind of
We also
temporary
want to
thing.
be mindful, one of the complaints that we used to get constantly at Turner, before we replaced the lights at Rundy, we used to get complaints there. Because they're tucked into neighborhoods, you got houses all around them, complaints on the lights. Yeah, even though Turner's got, well, Rundy definitely does, because it's the same company, but even with the light shields and things like that, and you've got very little light pollution. I mean, I can tell from my house when the lights are on at Turner. They're not shining on my house or anything like that. I'm not right up against the field, but if I step outside, I can 100%, I know that the lights are on up at Turner. Trying to be mindful of the fact that, you know, you've got a portion of River Falls up against this, you've got a lot of Windhaven up against this. The fact that it would just be supplemental for us from a programming standpoint, younger kids playing during the day, things like that. I don't know that lighting is a good move, but if we did need to have something out there at night or something like that, obviously the portable light towers are 100% an option, for sure.
Well, I'm thinking as far as parking lot goes, security. I mean, we could get Duke Power to put up a couple safe lights out there.
Parking lot lights,
You
I
know.
think, are a little bit different story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and in that parking lot area, have we done any soil tests or anything like that?
The only testing that we have is in the report that I shared with council previously from
Okay.
when the school district hired ESP to do some due diligence work, and that's why they decided not to build a middle school in Windhaven. It's primarily because of the soils out here, because this is where they needed to put their athletic fields and things of that nature. Yeah, so that, at this point, that's the only soil sampling that has been done.
Okay. I mean, I'd be interested to get before we even would ponder putting a parking lot anywhere, I think it would be in a good interest for us to get a soil test done in a couple of spots. That way, when we put the gravel down on the lot, we know that where that gravel goes, asphalt can come behind, and we're not gonna have the same problems we got at the tennis courts and,
Right.
you know,
Understood.
Turner.
Oh,
You know?
absolutely. I mean, once the ball gets rolling, so to speak, with this, I mean, all of that would be common, normal things that we would be undertaking.
Okay, anybody got anything further on that?
So we're looking for money.
Looking for money.
Leaving this?
Always looking for money.
All right, good.
Yeah.
I like the work you guys have done on this. It
Cool,
looks,
thank you.
looks very nice. It's very, very well done. I think
All
it'd
the
be
credit
very
goes
well
to
received.
Dustin and his team. They've done a fantastic job, I think. Ready for the next one?
I think we're ready for the next one.
So, Go ahead.
I just want to give a shout out to Matt. He was a volunteer head coach in our program at one time.
Well, thanks, Matt.
That's why I'm glad that he's here doing this. I know what he can do.
Thank you for joining us.
You got a free T-shirt, right? There you go. If not, I got one up here I get.
All right, so, Mayor and Council, the next item on your agenda is the discussion of the York County rec tax. And because I know we've got some folks that are viewing at home and may potentially view this later, a lot of what I'm about to say, y'all are, as a council, are probably aware of, at least a good portion of this. Towards the tail end of this, the next several slides, we've put together 4 options. Those are 4 options that we've come up with. And then there's a 5th one that you'll see that's any other options that council wants to discuss. I will ask, one, if I could go through all the options once we get to that point, and then we can come back and start talking about the individual options, so that way we can get them out there on the table, if you will. The other is not really looking for council to make a vote on any options tonight. And I'll explain why as we get a little bit further, but definitely want to hear your discussion and see which way you may be leaning after that discussion. So, so for the public's edification, if you will, in 2005, 2006, an intergovernmental committee that was known as the York County Recreation Coalition, which was comprised of managers and Parks and Rec directors from all the cities around York County, established a plan for a permanent funding source and formula for active and passive recreation services and facilities and access for all York County residents, incorporated and unincorporated. At that particular time, the county council did adopt an ordinance that created a special tax district. That special recreation tax district is all the unincorporated properties in York County. And from there, all the cities signed an intergovernmental agreement with York County. Everybody's agreement was the exact same. The only difference from one city to the next was the attachment A to it, where each individual city basically just listed, here are the programs that we're offering that we will charge non-city residents the same amount as what we're charging residents in exchange for that funding. That was a 5-year agreement, so it expired in November of 2011. But there's a provision in there that provided neither party gives notification. It continues on as a year-to-year contract, so, or a year agreement. So it is still in effect, at least today. It's still in effect based on what County Council is discussing, which I'll get to here in just a minute. So from 2007 to 2024, that ordinance established a method to provide the services to youth, adults, seniors, and therapeutics around the county. The distribution formula has been revised multiple times over the years. The most recent revision or version basically reverted back to the original school district population model. So basically, the total population of York County was divided by, we divided it up into school districts. So whatever percentage of the total population was within your school district boundaries, whatever percentage of that of the total population, that was the percentage of the total funding that you got. Because us and Town of Fort Mill are 2 municipalities within the Fort Mill Township, we have always split that money coming to that area 50-50. So for us, that equates to about a little over $244,000. Fort Mill would get the exact same amount, and that number has increased over the years. I think when we signed the agreement, that amount was $56,000 was the allotment that we got, and Fort Mill was getting the same. So January of this year, York County has a Health and Environmental Protection Subcommittee that is made up of and chaired by Andy Litton, who is the Lake Wiley Clover rep on County Council. Debbie Cloninger, who primarily represents Town of Fort Mill and some of the unincorporated areas and around Fort Mill, and then Watts Huckabee, who primarily represents a large portion of Rock Hill. They are the 3 council members that are on that committee. Councilmember Litton, at that particular meeting, made a statement that municipalities should plan on not receiving recreation tax funding going forward. So again, as I told you just a moment ago, our past allotment was $244,523. Now, I do want to call your attention to, because we currently have different fiscal years from the county. The county looked at their funding as July and January, whereas we always looked at it as January, July. So at this point, and the county, and this dates back to when Mr. Johnson was our rep. Okay, just to give you a time frame, the county decided we're going to split the payments in two. You're going to get half, and then you're going to get another half. And this is their way of, as they explained it, the checks and balances to make sure that nobody just snuck in a non-resident fee. Oh, okay, you're still paying, everybody's still paying the same amount? Okay, now you get your other half. So we got our half in January, but because the county's fiscal year starts again in July, as the county manager has told me, we're not going to get another payment. So that puts us short this year, for our current fiscal year, to about $122,261 from those rec fees. So still trying to have some conversations with them to see if we can get that by June 30th because of the unalignment of the fiscal years. As council is aware, as we go through this budget process, the 25-26 year will be a 9-month budget, and then we'll be back on that July 1 budget, which matches the county, matches the state, and lots of other cities around the state. But so that's where we're at coming through January, and where we are financially in reference to this rec tax from the county right now. So in March of 2025, now the HELP subcommittee, that's the Health and Environmental Protection Subcommittee, they met and they voted 2-1 with Councilmember Huckabee being the vote of opposition to approve a change in the funding. So the proposal they voted on, you see on the right side of the screen, is a county-wide park tax of 1.5 mils. So right now, only non-residents, unincorporated properties, okay, not just residents, but all unincorporated properties in York County are paying that 1.5 mils. That equates to about $1.7 million. The county keeps about $404,000 of that because of the Lake Wiley area and Field Day Park and things like that. That puts the rest of the municipalities splitting $1.2 million. All right. What their proposal is everybody going to pay the 1.5 mils, dissolve the unincorporated tax, so dissolving that special tax district, and then integrate and develop a needs-based capital or registrant stipend for municipalities. Well, we didn't know what that meant because the week prior to this meeting, we had the Municipal Recreation Association meeting, which was all the cities, and the county manager and deputy county manager were there. And we had a conversation about working together to find a solution because the county has identified that they are going to be, and they've got a parks department and they need to grow that department, but they're not getting into recreation. It's strictly passive parks. Monday night at their council meeting, that was reiterated. So we've heard it from staff, we've heard it from all the council. They're not looking to get into active recreation, it's only passive. So you've got Ebenezer Park, Allison Creek Park, that they just did a big renovation on. You've got Nanny's Mountain, Worth Mountain, and their Field Day Park, and then their big one is the Catawba Bend Reserve, which is 2,000 acres down, I'll say, east of Rock Hill, down along the Catawba River, which will have an outdoors ed center, lots of RV camping spots, primitive camping spots, mountain bike trails, all the, they've got a map of it on their website. But so that's what their plan was. So when I've met with the county manager and as we've had conversations, it was, we need about $2.2 million. Okay, well, let's work together and find a solution where we can stay whole and help you find that solution for the monies you need. The next week is when this HELP subcommittee meeting was. They put 4 options up on the screen. The option that they voted for was option 4. None of us had seen those options. None of those options had ever been floated past anybody with any cities. It was just, bam, here you go. And they made that vote. So April of 2025 at the county budget, the county had a budget workshop, and during their discussions, they took a straw poll, if you will. and with council saying in a 5-2 fashion, with council members Audette and Huckabee being against, that yes, they were in favor of this proposal. Monday night, and myself and Dustin, along with a couple of staff members from Rock Hill, as well as Ms. Miller, attended the York County Council meeting where they did first read. They did first read on their FY 25-26 budget. Per their budget, there will be a 1.5 mil increase. The unincorporated recreation tax will be dissolved because they also did first read on dissolving the ordinance for the special tax district. They did that in back-to-back votes. A lot of conversation. I encourage you, if you have not seen it yet, I know Mr. Heislip watched it live on YouTube that night. A lot of discussion and back and forth during the budget conversation. Mr. Audette, I applaud him. He made he made a motion to make an amendment to it that the rec tax stay in place and we keep the cities whole. Mr. Huckabee seconded that motion. A lot of conversation. Some of it was pretty easy to follow, and some of it I wasn't really sure what was being discussed, just to be frank. But that died, and the amendment was not approved. County manager proposed to council, and I found this out late Friday. He stated again during the meeting on Monday that the stipend, which up until Friday at about 4:45, we had no idea what the stipend would be. It had not been discussed with us or told us what any of the parameters were or anything else. Would be to spend back to the city $75 per participant for unincorporated individuals within the county. And we've got some numbers and everything that Dustin will talk through with you as to what that would mean coming back to us versus what we have been getting. That would be, I did get clarification on one of my questions back to the county manager. Are you doing it $75 per address, or per unique address, or is it $75 per person per sport registered for, through the calendar year? And he confirmed that it was per person per sport. At least that's what I've got in email. Council, I have looked through their 25-26 budget book. I have combed their budget. I can't tell you where this $75 is, or where any rules, regulations, anything about this stipend. So I've got some questions still outstanding to the county manager that I'm hoping to get answered by early next week to find out exactly what those parameters are. And when we get to the options, we'll clear it for you exactly why that is very important to know what, if any, stipulations the county may try to impose for that to get that $75 coming back. So let's talk about the options. And again, council, let me just go through all four, and then I'll click the slides back, and then we'll talk through. Dustin's got some stats and some numbers that we've been crunching for hours and hours and hours, and talk about what the financial implications would be over and above what you see on your screen. So option one would be, we basically don't do anything, and we take the $75 per person per registration. We keep everybody at the same registration rate, and off we go. That would be what I would classify as a significant financial impact versus where we are today. Option two, negotiate a new intergovernmental agreement ASAP with York County that allows the city to accept the $75 stipend and charge a non-city fee on top of the registration fee for everybody that does not live in TGK. So that would be incorporated and unincorporated throughout the county and beyond the county's borders. If you do not have a TGK address, you would pay that $40 fee on top of your registration fee. So based on our 2025 numbers, so obviously we've just got spring numbers at this point, but we did some analytical work to estimate what the fall may look like as far as numbers. That would equate to approximately $245,290, and that's based on 3,166 non-TGK, non-city participants, plus that $75 stipend for what we're identifying as approximately 1,582 non-city residents. All right. So again, I'll remind you, Currently, we were getting $244,563. So this would be almost right around $1,000 more than what we've gotten this past year. Option 3, we don't accept the stipend from the county, and we double the rates for all non-city registrants, which would include anyone participating who does not live in TKK. So whether you live in Fort Mill, live in Rock Hill, or you live in unincorporated areas, we would double your rate. And then those unincorporated registrants could go back to the county directly for their $75 stipend. We're basically not dealing with the county at all under option 3. Now, based on, for us, our fee schedule, and they range from as low as, probably $50, Dustin, to as high as $110, all right? So our average, based on our participation and everything else, is right about $80 per participant. That would equate to approximately $500,000 using the 2025 totals. And again, there's your ranges on what we're currently charging, anywhere between 75 and 110, depending on the sport and the age group and that kind of thing. Just to give you a frame of reference, for an 11 or 12-year-old to sign up for Majors Baseball, right now it costs $110. If they live in, I'll say, Palmetto Plantation, okay? That fee would, under this option, would go up to $220, and for them to play in both, play in the spring and then play in the fall, you're talking about $440 for a kid to play rec baseball, right? Potentially, if the county says, yeah, okay, we'll give it directly, we don't have any confirmation from the county that they would even give them directly the $75, right? Again, there's a lot of unknowns still, at least to me, on the $75. May not be unknown to the county, it just hasn't been shared with us at this point in time. And then number 4 is what we kind of refer to as the nuclear option, if you will, and only allow resident registration for programs. No one from outside the city is allowed to participate. So, and then obviously, as I told you earlier, I threw an option 5 on there. Through the course of the discussion this evening, if there's another option that council wants us to look at beyond the ones that I've already talked about, and we're about to get into a little bit more into greater detail on, we can obviously start running numbers and things like that and circulate that back out to council. So let's go back to option 1. Dustin?
So in going through this, we're trying to give you our best estimates as possible. So the numbers that we'll be looking at are going to be 2025 numbers and then pushing into 2025. As Charlie mentioned, the county has not really given us much direction as to what numbers they're going to look at, whether it's 2024, 2025, whether we're going to get a payment in the first half of the season, the second half of the season, the entire year. Again, a lot of that has been left out of the conversation. So option number 1, as Charlie mentioned, it would be a significant decrease with going from the $244,523, which is the current allocation from the county based on the recreation tax. Looking at the $75 a person per registrant, I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you. I'm not a numbers person, so don't feel bad if they go over everyone's head. So with that, at the $75 a person, you're looking at about $118,650 for the non-resident with the $75 stipend, and that's based on the year. So non-resident participants this past spring was approximately 791 participants. So we're making an assumption we would be at about 1,582 participants for 2025 in our spring and our fall sports. So that number with the stipend comes out to about 118,650, which Charlie mentioned it would be a pretty massive difference in revenue at about $63,280. So option 1,
Dustin, that's just for one. That's just fall or spring. That's not yearly, right?
Yeah, that would be for the year.
for the year.
Oh, it's for the year.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, so we would go from the 244,563
To
down to
118.
the 118.
Okay, I just
number.
wanted to clarify.
And
Thank
that
you.
would be for the entire year.
Yep. And so with option 1, this is the take, the participants and the families didn't make this decision, the county did. As in, no participant, no family said, get rid of this tax. We want, we don't want to be charged this, from the county. So, the Parks and Rec side of me is, we can't blame them, but obviously it would impact our budget and our ability to facilitate those programs pretty significantly on the financial side. So,
What's your confidence, what's your confidence level that the $75 stipend would become a reality?
that's
As much as anybody, to be honest. I mean, Carmen, you heard him say it during the meeting. He said it's part of my budget. So if y'all are familiar with how our budgets look, you see, you've got salaries, overtime,
Right.
FICA, group insurance, every operational item and things like that. If you look at the county's budget and budget ordinance, from including all of their fee schedules, it's approximately 26 pages. Our general fund, just general fund, without the ordinance documents, without any fee schedules, is 9 pages. There is one line item in their budget, it says park administration, and it says 3.9 million and change. I don't know how much of that is salaries. I don't know how much of that is anything. It's just park administration, and that's how they list the line item. So my guess would be that this $75 stipend, if you'll recall, the manager did tell me, I think it was during the meeting, Chris, when Mayor, when you and I were meeting with the manager and Chairperson Christy Cox at their request on how can we want to work better with all the cities, and how can we do that. So I brought up this conversation. He said that he needs 2.2 million. So I'm guessing that 75 on the stipend is in that
That's in the
3.9
3,
million.
right.
But they're also adding a lot more staff. Now, during their budget workshop, they talked about adding 16 more staff. But as I look in the budget book, I don't see 16 new staff. I see 6, and some of those are part-time that are specific to park. I don't see the 16, but as Mr. Heisel and I have discussed, because I know he watched that budget workshop, they said 16. So you've got your staff salaries and wages in there. I feel very confident in that. My assumption would be is that stipend is in that $3.9 million figure as well. But that's why as you look at number 2, the first line, new intergovernmental agreement. We've got to get this spelled out, exactly what it is.
Right.
To protect us. Yes, ma'am.
You had said early, in the start of it, that we would be getting about 244,000 normally. Mm-hmm. And that you're looking at a shortfall of 122,000 now. But Dustin, when you were going through your numbers, and that was for option 1, correct? Mm-hmm. You said we would be short 60,000. Is it just because you're only looking at a half a year or the full year?
No,
or?
that's because where we're at the 244 versus where we would be of unincorporated York County residents times the $75. That's what the shortfall will be between where we were versus where we would be.
Okay. So what we currently get for unincorporated residents versus what we would get with a $75 stipend.
Correct.
That's the
You
delta.
got a $63,000 and change delta.
Okay. And what would be the likelihood?
It would come up to 118, but the difference
It-
between what we were to the 118 is about 63,000 and change.
Yeah.
On number 2, it's a 3,166 non-city participants. Is that the number that we're using to apply the $75 for the stipend?
No.
Or we're using the 1,582?
Correct.
And what's the difference between that, since the other one says non-city
I'm gonna jump in.
participants?
So the 3,166 would be all participants that are not TKK residents. So anyone that participates from the town of Fort Mill, Rock Hill, those areas are included in that 3,166, but we do not get a stipend for them. So the stipend that the county is providing is
'cause they're
only
municipalities?
county residents. So anyone, anyone that is incorporated already, they would not provide a stipend for.
We have participants that are traveling from Clover, traveling from York, traveling from town of Fort Mill, traveling from city of Rock Hill to
Right.
come and be a part of the programming
Wow.
that we put on. Correct,
Correct.
Because they could play in their city.
correct.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
the stipend only applies to unincorporated residents in York County.
2 questions, if I may. One, how could we bear the responsibility of keeping track and validating with the county who's a unincorporated resident that's playing in TKK?
Mapping it through GIS.
Okay.
Yep.
Addresses.
Actually, the county's already mapped what we've sent them for 2024. Because we did send them the unincorporated addresses on that. Yeah.
All right, second question.
Yeah.
The current intergovernmental agreement we have, I heard you refer to it as a contract. It sounds like it's a contract. Is that something that can be just terminated by the county because they decided they want to terminate it?
So it requires a 30-day notice to terminate.
Okay.
Okay, and our city attorney and I had a conversation this week about it. Would they be in default? Yes, but the minute that we put them on notice, they just send us a letter giving
Right.
us termination.
Yeah.
You know, so with killing the tax district, they're in essence killing that intergovernmental agreement. Even though the intergovernmental agreement technically would still be in existence, we would have to put them on notice. And then if I'm the county, I'm just sending us a termination letter.
Right.
And in 30 days, it goes into effect. So we
Would they
did have
not
that
owe us
conversation.
would they not owe us the payment for the next 6 months? while
Not
they
without the
produce
test.
that? Okay.
And again, but on their books, they've given us the whole 244.
Right.
But because of, their fiscal year changes July 1, ours doesn't change over right now until October 1. That's where we're missing that quote
Got
unquote
it.
second payment, if you will.
Thanks for the clarity.
So basically, we're just out of $125,000 either way we look at it from the county. Thank you. Appreciate
So, some of the discussion that happened at the meeting was on who this applied to, and there seemed to be a disconnect of who it applied to. And the conversation, and I don't remember who said what, but was that this was for youth sports only, and that this conversation did not apply to adult sports or anything else that was part of that agreement.
Correct.
So do we have people that are coming in from outside, that are not residents, that are playing in adult leagues
Yes.
here?
Yes.
Okay, so
We do.
we're not going to get anything for those people.
At least as it stands right now with what the county has said, you are correct.
Okay,
They have made the determination. They say it's because of the consultant that they hired, Bob Woodard, out of Clemson University, out of their PRTM department, that's what it focused on, was you need to focus on youth. You need to focus on youth. I've not read that thing cover to cover, but I don't recall that focus being there. But that same consultant also said, oh, you need to build ball fields. Yeah, you need to get rid of the tax, and you need to keep all the money, and you need to start building ball fields. And the county has no interest in doing that. So they're good with ignoring that part, right? But, yeah, so we all, and by we, I mean the managers and Parks and Rec directors from the cities, we disagree that it should just be youth sports. Rock Hill, I'm sure a lot of us are very familiar with the Miracle League that they do it down at Miracle Park. They also have therapeutic recreation. Their department also runs a program called Lifelong Learning, which a lot of our residents and Fort Mill residents drive down to Rock Hill and participate in. Now, that's not technically a recreation activity, but it is run by their PRT department, and it was listed in their attachment to the agreement. So for us, the bulk of what we program is youth sports. But yes, we've got men's softball, women's softball, adult co-ed kickball, and especially I would say probably more so in men's softball and women's softball than anything else. Yeah, we've got a number of folks that are coming in. Now, we don't know how many because they sign up as teams, okay? So we don't have their addresses and things like that. They have to provide a roster that has just got the names on it. But we can, if the county will come off of it's just youth sports and they'll include adults, we can get the addresses. We can make them include that when they submit their rosters. So that way we would have a definite number as far as, how many men's softball teams we got this season?
9.
So we're at 9. So how many and average roster size is probably anywhere between 12 and 20, to be quite honest. We could, by getting those addresses, we could tell you exactly how many. But if the county's not going to give us any type of stipend for the adult sports, it's not worth that hassle of going back and trying to get those addresses and mapping them at this point. So, Dustin, let's keep going.
Oh, wait, one question real quick. So why in option 1 do we not need a new IGA? Wouldn't we still need an IGA there as well? If that's one we went with? We'd still need an IGA to guarantee we get that $75.
That's a valid point. That's a valid point. Yeah, I mean, at some point, the parameters around,
Need to be
or restrictions
spelled
around
out.
this $75 has got to be written out.
Right.
Because at this point, it is not. So, yeah, I would agree with you, Mr.
And
Isaac.
then also, would it make more sense with the non-city fee to not put a number and just say we reserve the right to charge a non-city fee on top?
We use this number just to figure out what number we would have to use
To get
to
close.
try to get whole.
Okay. But I'm
Right,
saying in
so
the
that's where
IGA
the
though, it
40
might make
came
more
up with,
sense to
but, yeah.
not put a number. And it's
I
our
mean,
discretion.
in the intergovernmental agreement, I would agree with you.
Yeah,
that-
okay.
That there would be no restriction on council of what that, of the city councils of what that non-resident fee
Yeah,
could
got
be.
it.
I agree with you 100% on that. And again, we just used the 40, trying to figure out, okay, what's the
Mm-hmm.
least amount we could charge on that non-resident fee to keep programs affordable for the kids
Right.
and still try to keep ourselves whole. So,
And when you,
Go ahead, Carmen.
when you say to keep ourselves whole, you're referring to the initial 244,000 that you're getting there.
that is correct.
Are you able to break that down a little bit more to say, what were the costs that that 244,000 covered besides the registration fees? Or was it just registration fees?
No, so the 244,000 that we got back from the county goes towards the programming of all of that. So, and that allows them to only pay the $80, right? So we've got a budget, and I actually shared this with the county via email whenever, our council, y'all were copied on that email, where we put together basically the recreation budget, yeah, which is a part of our total Parks and Rec budget. Give me 1 second, and I'll pull this up off the server. There it is. There's the folder. Where's the budget numbers?
And I know you sent it to us. I just
Yep.
think it's important for people to understand
Absolutely.
what
Yep.
we're talking about.
Pulling it up right now. So looking at our salaries, wages, benefits, and we used a portion of Dustin's salary, obviously, but not all of his salary, right? Because he's not directly programming and involved with the sports. We used a portion of Scott Cook, who is our lead, our landscape grounds superintendent, right? Used a portion of his, because he's not actively involved all the time, 100% of his time on ball fields, right? Because of his duties and assignments. We used 100%, we've got a ball field maintenance team out of our maintenance group, used 100% of their salaries. Used 100% of the programmer salaries. And when we added those up, that equated to about 53% of the total salaries and wages that are in the budget. So in total, and we use that 53% on, as you look at FICA, retirement, group insurance, workers' comp. We did use all of the overtime in our calculations because that's attributed to Catawba Park. Yeah, having folks out there late at night with the games and on the weekends because of tournaments and things like that. So your salaries and wages portion of that is $600,574. Skipping debt service on Catawba Park and the last remaining payment we have on the lighting project at Rundy, but getting down into the operational cost, which I just passed, there it is. So there are certain line items that are 100% absolutely part of recreation and solely the recreation programs. But then there's some other items where, all right, we'll capture a percentage of that, right? Like cell phone, right? Okay, it's not 100% because not 100% of the staff's time is spent on programming and the ball fields and things like that. So we went back to that 53% number. So your total operation and maintenance related specifically to recreation is $218,440. So the $244 that we were getting back from the county was to help offset those expenses, right? So when you look at our revenues, and I'm just speaking for this fiscal year, let me get to my revenue line item here. Total expenses, total revenues. So this includes your registration / user fees, your tournament field rental that we get coming in, the $244 from York County, plus the sponsorships, And then park rentals and concession revenues, which if you'll recall in the budget, those are nominal amounts. They're not big amounts, but it equates to $979,563 in revenues that are coming in with the York County 244, right? So is the 244 covering all of it? No, but it also shouldn't, right? Because we've got residents that are also participating, but they are also paying taxes, right? So you've got some of your property taxes and other revenues in our budget. They're helping offset those expenses because we also have, like, one of the things that's not included in the O&M is park maintenance, right? Because that doesn't have anything to do with our programming. But then we've got athletic field maintenance and supplies. Yeah, that is part of the programming. So between Dustin and Walker and I, we've tried to scale it down and make it as practical as what we can. So that's basically your budget, if you will, and that's what the 244 goes to, or
Would
goes
you,
towards to help offset those expenses.
Gentlemen, would you allow us to take a look at option 3 and 4 again for a second?
Absolutely.
I've got a couple of questions as it
Yep.
relates to that.
So real quick, just because it's really just one sentence, option 4 is only TDK.
Right, got that
right?
one.
And we've
Okay.
got some stats on what that would mean.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, let's
As
look at
well as
3.
option 3. But option 3 would be, we're not taking the stipend from the county. If the county will do it, the users can go get the $75 from them or apply for it or whatever they want. If the county says, no, we're not going to do it that way, well, then the users are out of luck. But we're not dealing with the county at all under option 3, and we're just taking the rates that are set by council on our registration fees and doubling them.
So, okay, thank you for clarifying that. So here would be my question, and we haven't talked much about this, but I'm sure it's in everybody's head right now. What do you think the projected attrition would be when the rates go up, affecting the overall revenue? My
You wanna cover
guess
that,
would
Dustin?
be
Go
that
ahead.
you're.
We
in
have
option
talked about it
2,
extensively, so
yeah, the
Dustin
option
can help you
2 of $40 turns into $60 for us to be
So
whole.
are you talking specifically about option 2 or just specifically option 3 or both of them together?
2 and 3, really.
2 and 3,
I'm leaning
okay.
toward 4, but I want to know about 2 and 3.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the attrition rate, 2 is I mean, obviously the most palatable you could assume for the participants. That right there is number 2 and 3 also is very conditional in terms of what the other municipalities choose to do as well. We've heard multiple different avenues that they may go. They may double, triple rates. They may do $30. It's still out there. So with number 2, I don't see a massive a massive drop off in numbers. $40 for some, it may price them out. It's just the reality of the situation. But I think in terms of an assumption, the majority of our demographics, our area would find that not great, but they'd still be able to afford
There's
that.
a tolerance level.
They're-
there, yeah.
Correct, and it would just depend on, like I said, if they would be able
Yeah,
to do that or
Option 3 is
not.
a bigger crossover.
Exactly, and we've talked about it and discussed it, as like Charlie mentioned. Again, it kind of depends on what other municipalities do as well. So, for example, and this kind of will roll into number 3 as well. If Fort Mill decides, well, we're going to charge $100 and we're charging 40, we might see a massive increase.
Right.
If we charge 40 and they don't charge anything, there's an option for a lot of those families that are on the border that could choose to just go to Fort Mill, overpaying the additional $40.
Sounds like a lot of your counterparts at the other municipalities are showing their hand as you are. So you have a feel for what they're thinking about doing with these options?
Not as of right now, no. Has the questions been asked? 100%. Yeah, I want to say thanks to Mayor Gray. I know he's had conversations with some of the other mayors. Fort Mill, to me, and in our head as we've had discussions, for us, Fort Mill is really kind of the crux, right? I don't know that we're going to lose a lot of our non-resident participants, right, down to Rock Hill. I doubt we're going to lose many, if any, over to Clover and York. We could absolutely lose them over to Fort Mill. So we want, and even our rates as they stand right now are very, very similar to what Fort Mill is charging, right? Even the out-of-county rate that council approved last summer, yeah, isn't it identical? Isn't Fort Mill doing 30? Yeah. So, I mean, it's identical. So, I mean, we've stayed pretty close as far as the fees that we're charging. But as Dustin said, if council decided, at at the May 19th meeting that option 3 is the way you want to go, but Fort Mill is only doing $20 over top of their registration fee, this might as well be option 4.
Right.
I mean, it really would.
To piggyback off of that with option 3, I mean, Charlie mentioned it earlier, for one child potentially, you're into that 440 range, and as Mr. Heislip mentioned, they could potentially get that stipend back if they get it. The ones that we are concerned about, I think about is our participants that have multiple children.
Right.
3, 4 kids that would have to, pay that up front and then try to get that stipend back, and you're all of a sudden looking at potentially $1,000, a year to play recreation sports. So, as Charlie mentioned, option 3, if it's not reciprocated in other places, you're essentially choosing option 4, because
Well,
it would be pretty.
I think 2 and 3 are pretty much the same thing. I don't know why you guys picked double. I mean, you could have put 100, you could have put 500. I mean, you just went with double. I'm assuming for simplicity, you just double the.
Correct. Yeah, I
But-
mean, it helps with the math, and because that's a number, at least amongst the other cities, that have been tossed around is either double the rate or triple the rate, right? And again, with option 2, we used 40. It could be 50. It could be 60.
Yeah, that's my point. I mean, these are basically the same option. The only difference is massaging what the number is and whether or not we take the county money or we make the residents
Right.
go get the county money.
Right.
Yeah.
With option 2, you're getting county money back, and it helps close that delta, if you will, versus putting it on the back of that participant. But option 3, you're not dealing with the county at all. So yeah, I mean, that is your main difference. Yes, absolutely. That $40 could be any number. We played with several numbers, just trying to get, okay, what number would it be to make us more or less whole from what
Yeah.
was allocated for this current year?
Because
And that's
based
where the
on,
40 came from.
based on number 2, you were trying to get hold of the 244,000, which is everything going on. To Mr. Shirley's point, if we need to sort of plan for some type of attrition, because if we increase the price, there's going to be some people that are going to possibly, step out and go somewhere else and look for their other options. With that being said, I don't want to, but I would like to possibly change or suggest a change in that number and make it maybe $50.
Right.
And do that with the stipend and with the non-city fee up to $50, that would be essentially $246,950, which would be a little bit more than the
Just to give you a cushion.
244, but give you a cushion for the
that's
possible
right.
attrition.
And that was a conversation that Dustin and
So-
I actually had today. It's 'cause,
That's,
I mean,
It gives a more comfortable
I don't want to
projection.
get to the point where
can't
number 3.
control,
Sorry.
to a certain extent, we can't control where people are going to sign up for,
Yeah,
even
yeah,
right
yeah.
now, from one season to the next or 1 year to the next,
And
right?
for number 3, for me, I just don't want to do that, because that puts the non-city residents or the unincorporated residents going off into the county trying to get some money back. Like, that's just, I wouldn't
is-
want to do
Yeah,
that
I like-
at all.
This is under the assumption that by whatever new rules they come up with, they will allow you to charge anything on top of the
There is that
$75 that they're
that's
going to
exactly
give you.
right.
Because right now, we're not able to charge anything.
That is correct.
But they're not gonna be able to alter that ordinance after the first read.
Oh, yes, they can.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was
Apparently, the county gets to play by, counties get to play by different rules. Chaplain and I had that very conversation Tuesday afternoon. The county chair made a statement, more question statement to their attorney. We can change this budget at every single read up until the third and final read, right? Yes.
Yeah, they can amend it.
Counties like, so the sunsetting or the dissolving of the special tax district, they did first read on that by title only. Like, the ordinance isn't even written. They did it by title only. We believe that counties have a little bit more latitude because they have to do 3 reads on everything, whereas cities only have to do 2. But yeah, so I mean, they can change their minds. I mean, they could completely change their mind by second read, and say, hey, we're going to keep the 1.5 mils and we're going to fully fund the rec thing. Based on the conversation I saw Monday night, I don't think that's going to happen, but they could, based on the way the county is able to operate.
I want to
Given
go
the
to,
information-
come back to Councilwoman Miller's point. So we're talking about adding a fee for the non-city people, but there's a possibility that we can't implement that fee.
Right now, we
Correct.
can't charge them a fee
Right.
because that's
An
part of the
additional fee.
agreement. In addition to what we get from the county, we
Hmm.
cannot say to non-residents, okay, and we're gonna charge you $10 extra. That's not allowed. So option 2 and option 3, well, no, option 2 makes the assumption
That
that
we can,
they're going
correct.
to allow that, for that to happen.
And that is absolutely an assumption right now.
Ooh.
Wait a second, if they're gonna dissolve the agreement, the agreement's dissolved for us too.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
gotta get
that-
a
the
new
new
But they may,
agreement, the new
at this point, we
recent-
don't know if they're going to say, well, if you want your $75 stipend, we have to enter into a new agreement. I would want to be into a new agreement just to memorialize that $75 because it's not memorialized anywhere else,
Well,
right?
Charlie, what if we,
But then there needs to be what those parameters are, has to be in there.
what if we go in with option number 3 and then have option number 2 as a backup? Yeah, if you don't like this one, how about this one?
So I would say yes if the county had given us more time. June 1st, we start registration for residents for fall sports.
Right.
In July, we start registration typically, right, for non-residents. Council, you guys would have to do 2 reads of an ordinance to amend the fee schedule regardless of, unless y'all decide option 1's the way we're going to go, whether it's 2 or whether it's 3, we got to amend our rate schedule.
Well, we
right?
seem
That's
to be
gonna take
skipping
2
4
reads.
too.
Do I?
And we were skipping 4. We haven't even talked about that yet.
No, I hadn't got there.
And I
Yep.
think, I disagree with my partner here, Brian, a little bit in that, he said doesn't want to make the families go back to the county, but, and I know I sent you guys this in email, we were elected to represent TKK and residents of TKK and what's best for the residents of TKK. All these other people that live outside of TKK decided to live outside of TKK. They're not our problem. We provide them a service, and if they want to use it, they can, and we have the option to charge them more. And historically, they've paid taxes to the county, and they gave it to us. Now, this is going away. The county put us in this bind. We shouldn't be bending
County
over
put them in that
backwards.
bind too.
The county put those county residents in the
Right.
bind.
That's correct.
And we shouldn't bend over backwards, jump through hoops to make it easy for the non-city residents. We should be looking out for city residents.
Right.
And it is tough because they're caught in the middle, but I totally, I do agree with what you're saying. It isn't something that we've created. And I would like to kind of clarify the increase in millage that's being proposed and what's being changed and how it affects our residents. What's being proposed is an increase of 1.5 across the entire county, which is a brand-new tax, right? And it's for the construction and improvement of county passive parks that most of our residents don't really participate in because we do have all of that. That's very, very much in-house. So it's 1.5 that our residents are going to have to pay. And if you guys think about this, we have not raised taxes in 14 years because we've bent over backwards to try to accommodate
Right.
for the fact that we don't want to do that,
Find other
right?
ways to fund it.
So boom, in a heartbeat, 1.5 is being added to every TKK resident's tax bill. And the 1.5 that had been charged to the non-resident community to be able to use our park, they're still going to be paying 1.5, but that's because it's a wash for them. Everybody else is going to be, so they're not going to be paying, they're still paying 1.5. We, as a municipality, is just not benefiting from that payment. But yet our residents are going to be paying 1.5, and we're basically please, sir, give us $75 or more so that your people, the non-residents can come and use the same parks that our residents are being charged 1.5 for. Is that kind of the gist of it?
And on top of
Because I
that-
think that needs to be very clear to the residents that you are about to get charged an additional 1.5 for passive parks that are going to be built for the county. And that if you have not used those parks today, you're not likely to use them in the next year or the next 10 years. And we have protected you from a tax increase for 14 years, not we, but, in general, the city. And the county's coming in and doing that tax hike for you because they don't want to cover something that they've covered for 20 years.
So at the next election, vote them out.
Yeah, and on top of that, you know, that,
Or
There's
show
not-
up at the meetings now with the county council that's in there and,
Which they do have a public hearing scheduled on their budget next Tuesday,
yeah.
the 13th at 5:30 PM at the County Government Center. So anybody watching, playing along at home, we encourage you to come.
And keep-
I know that we are having conversations, our Parks and Rec staff are having conversations with some of our key non-resident participants, because, and if we can pause for just 1 second, I want Dustin to cover a couple things if this were a TKK only, okay? Just to kind of put it in reference, because if we say nobody can come participate here other than us, other cities potentially do the same, right? So what does that mean to TKK? Well, we got a lot of kids that go over to Fort Mill and play basketball in the winter because we don't have a gymnasium, right? We have a lot of kids that go over to Fort Mill and Rock Hill to play volleyball during the winter. So we don't have a gymnasium. We can't offer those particular programming. That's a minor portion of it. So Dustin, if you'll cover what you've got there, please.
Sure, and this was part of the, option 4, and Mr. Heislop, I don't disagree with your sentiment at all. Looking at it, just strictly as an operational side of things for the Parks and Recreation Department and how much we've grown over the past few years, one of the things that we looked at is what does it look like with registrations per sport for just TKK residents, as well as coaches too. And just some numbers to kind of show you what that impact would look like. In our baseball program, we offer Tiny T's, Advanced T-ball, Coach Pitch, Minors, Majors, and Juniors baseball. So that ranges 3 all the way up to 14. Right now, this season, we had 57 baseball teams. If we were to reduce that to strictly TKK residents, we would be looking at a total of 18 teams across 6 divisions. And at that, you're wiping out your juniors program. You're more than likely dropping your minors and majors to 2 teams. Things of that sort. And with coaches, with our advanced T-ball, we have 14 teams and we had 3 coaches from TKK. So it would be a pretty big impact for just specifically baseball, because now you're looking at, okay, what other organizations are we able to play with? Are we now traveling to Fort Mill to play baseball? Are we traveling to Rock Hill to play baseball? Are we playing with Lake Wiley? You can't operate a 2-team league. Similar with softball similar with softball, we have 10 teams right now through 3 divisions. We'd be dropped down to 4 teams in 3 divisions. So you're probably looking at one team in each and probably 2 in our 8U program. One of the biggest drops too would be flag football. We have 42 teams across 4 divisions, and we'd be dropping down to 15 teams in 4 divisions. We have a division in flag football. We don't have a single resident head coach. So I understand the sentiment, and I do believe, y'all were elected to take care of TK residents, but it would be lost on me to explain what the ramifications would be for the recreation program if that were to happen. So it would turn into trying to find potentially other leagues to play with, more travel for parents, and as Charlie mentioned, we don't offer winter sports because of our lack of gym space. So if we were to if we were to say no to other municipality players, would they do the same for us? So it's it's just something to consider as well. And
You got any
believe
numbers
me,
on that, Dustin?
what's that?
You got any numbers to go with that?
What type of numbers?
Numbers for, as far as numbers that we would have with those teams that you're talking about, as far as participants?
That's what he just read out.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'm talking about money-wise.
Oh, money-wise, if it was just residents? Yes.
So, looking at residents, I think it was that one that we were looking at. So, we weren't including the resident, revenue as a part of those other numbers, but just strictly resident revenue would be 125, 280 would be just strictly resident registration revenue for us,
Based on,
based on the average of
Correct.
$80.
and
per
making
participant.
Say
assumptions
that
on
number
what our
again,
fall
please.
registration would look like as compared to the spring.
Correct.
When we look at the difference between spring of '24 and fall of '24, Our fall numbers drop slightly. They do every year. A lot of it is tackle football.
Tackle football.
You've got some of those private organizations that are doing tackle football. So folks that, they may play flag football with us in the spring, and then they go play tackle football with one of those private organizations that are out there.
And middle
So-
school as well.
Yeah, and then you get into middle school once they hit 7th grade.
If I can, I just wanted to, for people watching at home or watching the recording, going back to what Carmen said a minute ago about the 1.5 mil tax, that it's getting lost in translation. And I've had multiple conversations with county council people, and outside of Mr. Audette and Mr. Huckabee, no one seems to get it. But we, the residents of TK, are going to pay 1.5 mils to the county, and then we got to beg for part of that back, so that people that don't live here can play at the same rate. So our residents are basically getting double taxed on that. Because, yeah, and the other thing, and it was brought up at county council meeting, and I won't mention the name, but he represents part of Rock Hill, said he didn't ask for us to build parks and fields, and, well, nobody asked the county not to build them. And Mr. Huckabee made a great point that the municipalities have done a great job under this agreement to run these programs, to make the facilities. I mean, we just spent, how much was Cabot Park? 12 million, 11 million?
26.
$9 million. Okay, spent $9 million on a park so we could have more programming, right? That our taxpayers are funding, wholly funding. Yet the county thinks that's not a big deal. We didn't ask you to build them. Well, if we didn't build them, there'd be no place for these non-residents to play. And so I say this to our residents: us, TK, and the other municipalities have done a great job supporting the county and supporting active recreation programming, and the county's done none of it until they built Lake Wiley Field Day Park. And now,
Well, they still don't intend to add any
no,
sports.
nothing. No, they're building all these parks with no fields in them.
Right.
And they have no intention of doing
They're
programming.
going to club us in the knees.
And they want
not-
us to
and not
continue to do
replace
it and just, please give us money to help us.
Right.
Yeah, we gotta, and here we are trying to figure out a way, again, based on Dustin's number, I mean, I'm all for TKK, but I mean, on those numbers, it doesn't sound like a good option, number 4.
Well, let's expand on your point, Tom, because you make a great point about, and Carmen did too, about the 1.5 mils. So correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie, but 1.5 mils, based on the average home value in TKK, if I'm doing the math right, is $550 a year.
If you'll bear with me 1 second, I will double check that math.
Thank you.
If I use a $400,000 home value.
I used 550 because that's what I just saw in the paper recently.
Okay.
Okay.
That is fine. I'll change this to 550.
552 is the average.
$550,000.
Hey, that's awesome.
At a
Yeah.
4%.
We just went ahead of Mount Pleasant on average home values.
So that gives you an assessed value of $22,000 times .0015, which would be that millage. So you're talking $33.
$33 a year? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it's not an astronomical number
No.
by any stretch, but there is a principle behind the thing,
Yeah.
right? Just to be forthcoming with council, when I've had previous conversations with county staff, even when he and I were meeting with excuse me, I got to sneeze. It's ongoing. I'm not sure if it's going to come or not. I even said, let's kick around. You keep the 1.5 in place, and then do a countywide 1 mil. Now, here's where I arrived at that number, and it was backing into the number the county manager said that he needed of the approximate 2.1 to 2.2 million dollars. So if you recall, currently the county keeps $404,000 out of the special tax district, right? They keep that, and they use historically they have used that towards Field Day Park, right? So if they got $404,000 there, 1 mil in York County equates to approximately $1.9 million countywide. Well, if you charge the 1 mil, you got $1.9 million, and you're keeping $400,000, you're all over your $2 million and change that you need.
Right.
Now, what that does is it takes your unincorporated property taxes to 2.5 mils instead of the 1.5, right? But then we as incorporated residents, regardless of what city you live in, it's a 1 mil, right? to go towards parks that, now, I will say that during their conversations, I believe it was Ms. Cloninger said, if we're going to tax everybody, don't charge them if they live in York County to use those facilities. Because in their fee schedule, they were still going to charge to go in. Now, they're minimal amounts, and council seemed to be palatable with that, right? So there is going to be a tweak, at least to their fee schedules, going into second read to represent that. But to me, yeah, I don't mind helping you personally. I'm not talking as city manager. I'm talking about as residents at TGK. I don't mind paying into the county to develop this beautiful park, passive park system, as long as you don't charge me to go use it. Now, we are very fortunate, everybody living within the Fort Mill Township, which stretches from Indian Land all the way over to Lake Wiley, right? We're very fortunate because between the town of Fort Mill, Springs, and the city of TGK, we have created a lot of amazing amenities.
And how many of those amenities are run by the county?
0.
That's what I thought.
There are no parks. There are no county park facilities within the Fort Mill Township at all, right? Now, I would also say, there's probably nowhere to put them at this point, but it is what it is. But whether so think about if you live in Baxter or Waterstone, okay, just to name the two largest neighborhoods right outside of our city. Well, they don't need county parks because they can go to the Greenway and walk around, right, if that's what they're looking for. They can go to the river access, that's down at Catawba Park, and they can use that, right? They can go play on the playground at Catawba Park. They can go over to town of Fort Mill and use any number of their playgrounds and things of that nature. And you've got the sports leagues between town of Fort Mill and TGK. I don't know how many people are going to drive down and use Catawba Bend Reserve once it's finished. It's an amazing plan. It looks beautiful, at least the concept plan they've got online. But speaking personally, it's probably not a facility I'll ever go into, at least as a family or personal use, right? I have no need to go down to Ebenezer Park. It's a great, beautiful facility, or Allison Creek Park. The county has done a wonderful job with those facilities, but the folks in this township and TGK and the immediate surrounding areas, they don't have that need, but yet they're going to be paying that tax, regardless. So, I hate that the horse got this far out of the barn without the county having more conversations with the cities. Because as I've said multiple times tonight, I've probably got more questions still that are outstanding. I'm waiting on responses to than I have answers right now. But there was the option that I just tossed out. I'm not saying everybody would love that option, but based on the numbers that were tossed our way, that option works. But to my knowledge, at least publicly, at any of their subcommittee or full council committees, it's never been discussed. And that, I personally, I have an issue with that, but council has done first read.
So, Charlie, question for you.
Yes, sir.
How does Charlotte Independence feel about all this?
We've had some conversations with them. By agreement, they have to charge what council sets as the rates.
If we went with option 4, what would Independence say about that?
So that hasn't been discussed with them specifically, but I can tell you that there is a highly likely chance that they would not want to continue the relationship
Right.
if we were only letting TGK residents participate.
What kind of money do we lose a year if we lose Charlotte Independence?
It's over $500,000 a year. I
Yeah.
want to say it's right at $750,000.
So is option 4 worth it?
Not from a revenue perspective.
In my
Okay,
opinion,
so
no.
Can we agree
Absolutely
to take
not.
option 4 off the table?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't.
No, I'm not taking it off the
I wouldn't
table.
take it off the table.
I'd
So
say,
you want to lose $500,000 with Charlotte Independence,
no, didn't say
and
that.
then you want to lose another 1.25 or
Charlotte,
1.25?
it is
Well, Charlotte
225,
Independence,
480 is what we get
we
from
can
it.
make that a separate agreement.
Right.
It's not an all or nothing. You could say every sport but soccer is TK residents only, but soccer, because it's run by Charlotte Independence, we just change our ordinance and go that way. And I'm
Yeah,
not saying I want to go
we
with
can write a
option
separate
4.
agreement for
I'm
them.
just saying I don't think we should take it off the table.
Right.
Okay, so then I got the next question for you is, in thinking of the long ball game, If we kick all the non-incorporated folks out of TDK and we tell them you can't come play sports, we don't want you in our parks, what do you think that looks like when we go to get Main Street going? You think those folks in the unincorporated areas want to come spend money with us if we are unhospitable to them that way? They can go eat
They wanna
anywhere they
eat-
want to. They
wanna
can
eat
go
and
to
shop,
Epic,
they will.
can
I
go
don't
to
know if
Epic,
you
they
guys
can
have-
go to Rivergate, they can go Charlotte, they can go to Rock Hill, they can go anywhere they want to.
I don't know
They
if you
have
guys
to
have
come
any
visit us.
family
I
or
think that
friends
the
that live
question that-
outside of Fort Mill or outside of TKK that have their kids or they personally play in TKK. The option of not having them participate in TKK like irritates the stuff out of them. Like, to your point, that just puts a bad look on TKK, saying, "No, we don't play well with others. You just counted something. Here, we're out. We're not going to do this anymore." So that's why I would say I would want to take it off the table. I don't want to do. I would love
where
to
I'm at.
find a way to figure out how we receive money back from the county. I don't agree with the county going off and implementing a countywide tax for 1.5 mils for everybody. And when it went from unincorporated residents only, which is like 150,000 residents, to like over 300,000 residents in the county, and we're having to fight to get our money back when they just doubled their pot. That part sucks. I don't like that at all, and I don't know where that money's going because it's going to go off to pay for other parks or whatever. So they want to build up their bucket and fill that sucker up. But I don't want to sit there and eliminate all the people that come into TKK to go off and play. I think there's a way that we can go off and find a nice balance to do this.
In the interest of time, because we're over, I'd like to make a suggestion that we take, not a vote, but we take a poll to get an understanding for staff's benefit on how they proceed and for our benefit on how we continue our discussions offline of which option you feel most comfortable with. So we're not voting for one or we're not voting for two, but I would just like to get an idea which way you guys are leaning, like what would be your favorite option? May I ask that?
Yeah. I would like option 2, and then obviously we can, massage the numbers, but the number that I came out with was the $50 for the non-city residents and receive the stipend from the county.
Thank you.
And that is the,
Yes, sir. Is that all right?
I'm leaning option 3, because the county made this mess and let them deal with it.
Fair.
And maybe not double, it could be any number, but the residents go to the county to get their money.
Okay, so basically a hybrid off between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Is what you're talking about. Okay.
So I'm leaning towards 2 because I don't have any faith in the county.
You do have faith in the
No,
county?
I don't have any faith in them to
Okay.
get it right. As far as
Right.
individuals needing to be reimbursed by the county, I don't have any faith in the county to be able to keep up with that.
Right.
I mean, if you look at their budget, it's ridiculous. I don't know how you keep up with anything with a budget that looks like theirs. I don't have any faith in county council except for Audette and Wes on this.
Watts.
I think
Watts,
there's,
I mean,
there's room for movement there, though, I think,
I
with
think
a
there's-
couple of
there-
others.
There would be room for movement if Debbie Cloninger would realize that, you need to do what's right for your people.
Right.
And stop trying to get elected, which that's a problem. And these other folks are uneducated about the subject. It was quite clear in the meeting that they got no idea what they're talking about. I mean, they just want to be changing something to change something. So I would be more inclined for the city to handle the numbers as far as the $75 back to folks, just let's bring it back to us.
And that's assuming, though, that the county allows us to charge more. If they don't allow us to charge more, then our only option is 3. We can say like,
Right.
well, we're charging more, and county, you deal with your own residents.
And we,
then we
I
back up
would
and punt
agree,
at
I
that
would
point.
agree with you 100%, Mr.
Yeah.
Heisler, that if the county doesn't give us the latitude to charge a non-city fee and still get the $75, then like you said, it may not be double, but but it's gonna take a good bit more.
right.
And then keep your $75, give it back to the people, but we're not in any agreement or anything else. We're gonna do what we do. And we can, over the next several days, Dust and I can work in what that option may look like, from a valuation standpoint.
And I think that is something in your discussions with your counterparts and stuff, that needs to be brought up. Like if you're not, if you're saying in the IGA, we cannot charge more than the 75, I mean, than our normal rate in order to get that 75, well, then you can deal with the residents and we're gonna charge whatever we want. I mean, make it clear that that's an option, because otherwise, we're screwed.
Madam Councilwoman, could I get your opinion?
I'm with option 3 only because I feel that it gives us more control of what the outcome would be. We're not waiting to hear what the county is going to decide. And then even if at this point they decided that, yeah, we would allow it, it doesn't mean that they're going to allow it the next time that they feel like they need more control of something. So we would always be sort of at their mercy. And I like the idea of having control of what our expected revenue is and how we're going to assess that. I hope that for the non-residents, from their perspective, I hope the county does a really good job of educating them how they went from 1.5 mils to be able to participate at no cost to them, which what you said 1.5 mils was, it was $24 was thrown at the meeting. You said 33 based on TKK numbers.
Based on TKK, yeah, based on
So-
York County's median household.
Yeah.
Our home value, you're looking at about 23 to 20.
So I hope
$24.
that those residents have an opportunity to ask the question, why is it that for 20 years we've paid 1.5 mils to be able to participate without it costing us by sport, by child? And now all of a sudden, because you have decided that you want to do this without any input from the community, you have raised my taxes to the 1.5 still, but now I don't have the access to participate, and it's going to cost me per child, per sport, up to possibly $1,000, right? And
Could be more.
From the other side of it, for our own TKK residents, you are going to be charged, or potentially, the 1.5 mils. I hope that you're asking questions of your county council as to why that is being assessed to you without any education or conversation about it. And what is that going to be used for that benefits you, the TKK resident, that you are not benefiting from right now?
I'll give you guys my opinion, and I appreciate you sharing where your hearts are on this, because I think it gives us an opportunity to have a lot of conversation offline, to figure out where we're going to land on this, where the city's going to land on it. I think it's a fair thing for staff to know kind of what our vision is for this as well. The last thing I want to see is for us to shut the door on everybody else and take option 4, the nuclear option, and say nobody else is welcome, it's just TK residents. I totally agree with your concept on that, Tom. However, that does affect the TK participants from a competitive perspective and from a participation perspective. So I like that from a resident benefit, cost versus benefit option, but I don't like it for the participant. So I would lean towards a version of option 3 as well. I don't like being controlled by the county. I don't like being under their guise to beg them for money that our residents and our participants rightfully have received for several years, and putting you guys in a position to try and figure out how to fund this program. I really do like option 3, because it gives us a lot of flexibility to either receive the funds from the county, help participants receive the funds from the county, or thumb our nose to the county if we have to and create those funds within ourselves.
I will share with council, City of Rock Hill they're kind of in the same boat as far as where they are on the path, right? They haven't made a decision yet, but they're having lots of conversations just like y'all are having tonight. What has been shared with me from their staff and from Mayor Gray's conversation earlier this week with Mayor Geddes, sounds like they're between option 2 and 3, right? Nothing definitive at this point. But again, there's still just so many questions that we haven't been able to get answered at this point. My goal would be, once those questions get answered, I think a lot of this gets a little bit clearer,
Right.
especially around the stipend. Because as y'all have pointed out on multiple occasions tonight, that's a big thing. Yeah, are there going to be stipulations around that $75 and it coming back to the city. And if there is, then I think we have no choice but to look at that option 3. Now, again, as Mr. Heisel said, maybe it's not completely double, maybe it's
Right.
50% more, 75% more, or what have you. And Dustin and I, as I committed to you, over the coming days, we'll start running that scenario and be able to provide you some information. We'll go back through our worksheet, and today is Wednesday. Probably by the 1st of next week, because we do have Best Damn Festival this weekend. Dustin and his crew is going to be very busy over the next couple of days, but we'll clean up our numbers, get them more organized to help and provide those back out to you via electronically so that you can see them on paper. I'll be honest, as we were sitting in the office for hours and hours today, moving numbers around and everything, it's basically a note sheet right now, so we'll clean that up, get it reformatted, and get that out to you guys by the first part of next week.
You guys have provided a great foundation for the discussion, though, and I appreciate the effort you put into it.
Yeah.
I got a request.
Yes, sir.
Could you run some numbers and follow along with me here, because I'm just
I will
trying
try.
to get
Go
a
ahead.
point part. Okay, so the 1.5 mil raise that we've got, could you run a number to pay everybody back in TK from participants that, so we got $500,000, right? For the, if
If
we
you go
did
double the rate.
registration fee of $80, doubled it, you got $500,000, right? What if we charged $100? Could we possibly get our folks in TK back their 1.5 mil rate? And then every other city do that too?
Here's
only
where I would have an
$37
issue
per
with that,
resident.
Mayor, and here's where I think we're
But what
running
I'm
into a
saying is
problem.
it's double taxes.
Right.
So if we're gonna charge the money,
If I can, here's where I think you run into an issue with that, okay? You're collecting money off of program users, and then you're distributing it out to every household in the city. That $33, which is what approximately what that 1.5 mils would look like, based on the $550,000 home value.
You might could reduce registration fees for residents.
I would
or
have
something to pay the money back to the
I think
residents
we would have
of
an issue
TK.
taking registration money and then just refunding it out to every household in the city.
Yeah, but like
When every
Scott said,
household
if
in
we
the city
lowered
doesn't participate in.
If we lowered the rates down for everybody participating, that could be something that would be a benefit
at
to the residents of TK because of this tax that we're being assigned.
We could lower our
At
registration.
least we're helping some of the folks in TK by lowering their rates down and
Right.
subsidizing it through that.
So just to make sure I'm following along, all right?
That might be a chaplain conversation.
Well, but there was something that
Been
just
known to
got
have those
said.
before.
There was something that just got said loosely, right? If we do a double the fee, right? At least right now, based on the estimated numbers for all of 2025, that would yield approximately $500,000, right? We could look at it from a standpoint of, okay, if the average registration rate is $80, maybe that average registration rate was $50, right? By lowering the fees, and then you double whatever that new average is.
Get you closer.
It's going to take a little bit of time just to run that type of scenario.
Right.
But as far as a give back, if you will, the give back would be on that front end of, okay, TKK citizen, you're now signing up little Johnny for $40 instead of $60 or whatever the case may be. Or I think our lowest was 75. So maybe that, could that number become 50? And then the non-city resident paying 100, right? What does that yield? We can take a swing at that and see what we can come up with.
You want to make it more muddy? What if we had a scholarship fund for folks that can't afford to play?
I would stay away from scholarship funds.
Okay.
I mean, it
Motion to
can
adjourn.
become a nightmare.
I second.
I'm just trying, what I'm trying to do is use this in a way to where our folks can get paid back.
Understood.
And if I can, I just wanted to clarify one thing, and then I'm done for the night. I'm not in favor of option 4. I don't think you should take it off the table.
Right.
Just, you don't know. And if we all say no right now, then we gotta try to bring it back up. I'd say just leave it on there, and we might not ever
Yeah.
look at it again, but it's still on there.
I mean, I'll be honest with
I
you.
agree with you,
For,
Tom.
for pressure to be applied to the
Exactly.
county, if every city took option 4,
Oh, be a problem.
the needle would definitely move.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, don't take it off.
It would
That's
definitely move.
That's
But
it.
I don't get the sense right now in talking to leadership in the otter cities that anybody is going to consider you can't.
And then I wanted to say one other thing for the what do we call it? Non-incorporated residents. We got nothing against you. We love having you here. We love having you playing. Love having you participate. We did not want this. We didn't create it, and we're stuck dealing with it. And we're trying. I think I can speak for everyone up here and say that this is not TKK against county residents. We got dealt a bad hand by county council, and we're trying to make the best of it with the intention that you can still participate in our sports. We just got to figure out how we can fund our sports.
Yeah, and I think, just going back to what I said earlier too, that the action should come from the conversations that those non-residents are demanding of their county council, because it's those decisions that are affecting this whole thing. It has nothing to do with what we would want to play in our sports. We've always had it welcome. It's been 20 years of growth for that. But you can't take away a budget and expect to continue to provide the same services at the same level.
Correct.
To a growing population. One of the things that I said to you earlier is the county, during the meeting, they made a comment about, well, we didn't tell them to build more parks. We didn't tell them to hire more programmers. That's not on us. Well, I beg to differ a little bit, because we did not approve the development that the county has approved that impacts us on a daily basis. We didn't approve the new homes and the new businesses and everything that's come with it. And with that that's where the participation in all of these sports, and that's where the growth has happened, is because all of us together have seen that growth. All of us, TKK has voted for growth. Fort Mill has voted for growth. So has the county, and in even a larger scale. And it is those people that they voted to move here by that growth that are now participating in these programs. And you can't yank the chain and expect to have no rattle. So those homeowners, those participants, those families should be picking up that phone and calling their representative and saying, well, how did you even get here? Because now it's going to cost me a whole lot more to do the same thing that we've been doing for this many years.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of same thing
Well
they
said.
did with the impact fees. But, yeah. Okay.
We have a motion and a second.
Have a motion to adjourn?
I made a motion, she
I have a
seconded it.
second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
We're adjourned.
Thank you, council.